Hello and welcome into Loftside Banter. Today's show is going to be kind of a mini show with the NBA preview, in which I had Dan O'Keefe and Ian Grotenheis back. We'll get into that in a little bit. I want to dive in really quickly to just the scoreboard from this previous week in the NFL and some major news stories. So we'll start with the New England Patriots, who won again 32-13 over the Cleveland Browns. Tale of two halves here. Obviously, that defense looked pretty good. The Cleveland defense looked pretty good against Drake May and stuff like that during the first half. And then from there, they just kind of wore them down. The things for the Patriots, at least, where we can still kind of pump those brakes, is the offensive line still needs a little bit of work. Obviously, some growing pains, but Myles Garrett, who is a beast in itself, and it's not surprising that he had 5 sacks by himself, but you shouldn't be giving up 5 sacks to any one individual, whether it's Myles Garrett or not. Just some differences in there, but Drake May had an early interception, and then from there, kind of calmed down and played really well. Again, 32-13 win there. The 37-10 win for the Chargers over the Vikings. The news story here is that Carson Wentz was hurt during the game, wasn't taken out. At some point, he eventually was for Mac Brosner, the third-string quarterback, and then come to find out that Carson Wentz done for the year with a shoulder injury. So that either means it's probably, let's call it what it is. J.J. McCarthy's probably going to come back and be the starting quarterback going forward. As long as he can stay healthy, he'll play it out. And again, it's just trying to see the growth within J.J. McCarthy now that he has the actual playing time. We'll see what happens. If you're going to Max Brosner for the Vikings, your season's done. Obviously, we've seen third-string quarterbacks step in and do fairly well. Brock Purdy comes to mind, but we'll see what happens with that. Jets come back to get their first win of the season, 39-38 over the Bengals. The Bengals defense is still so bad. It's so bad. And Flacco and the offense can only do so much. They obviously needed to drop the ball a little bit towards the end of the game and get the Jets defense had to do something. And they eventually did. And they got a couple of stops they were able to get, and then Breece Hall throws. That's right. Breece Hall, the running back, throws a touchdown pass at the end of the game. Exciting game. Good for the Jets. Again, Aaron Glenn, I've always been a fan of as far as his playing style and everything else like that. A fan of him being the defensive coordinator in Detroit. And, you know, though he coaches the Jets, gets her first win. Baltimore from behind Tyler Huntley get a 30-16 win over the Bears, getting another win. And the statistics are still like 40% for the Ravens to win and get into the playoffs. So trying to make that all work out math-wise in my head is confusing, but they got a win. Williams just hasn't developed as much as the two guys drafted right after him. And that's where kind of the noise is in Chicago over what's happening with him. But for the most part, he has shown bits of improvement with Ben Johnson. Maybe not game to game, and that's kind of what you want to see right now, and we still haven't. So it's going to come down to if you can get through the rest of this year with Ben Johnson and then go through, because you still got half a season. Actually, at halftime of this week will be the official halfway point of the season, because it went from 16 games to 17 games, so obviously 8 games isn't halfway anymore. Halfway through the 9th game is your halfway point. You still got a whole second half of the year. So we'll see what happens with him. I wouldn't count him out. I wouldn't say, hey, he's this, that, and the third. Negatively, I think you go from 1 year with the coaching staff last year, which wasn't great, to now getting Ben Johnson, a guy who is an offensive-minded guy, and you got to give him time. But another kind of bad mistakes at bad times, it seemed like. Dolphins 34-10 over the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta started Kirk Cousins. He didn't do really anything he didn't put the team into a good spot to be successful at all. But he didn't make any mistakes. You know, obviously they wanted to keep Michael Penix Jr. from furthering an injury, so understand the sit down of Michael Penix Jr. Miami, this doesn't mean they're back. It's just they beat a decent team. But again, I think they're still probably, we know who they are at this point. They'll be competitive in games. I don't think that's a question. Bills 40-9 win over the Panthers, so another blowout loss for the Panthers. Now they also went with Andy Dalton this week. Bills came off of a bye week, so pretty well rested, played pretty well. James Cook looked amazing. So another win. Again, Buffalo, I think, is now going to start rolling. Houston Texans 26-15 over the San Francisco 49ers. I would say the honeymoon for Mac Jones is over. He's starting to revert to some of the things that we knew about him going into this year. But Texans' big win keeps their season in a positive light for right now. Still, some things are not connecting very well on that team. CJ Stroud to any of his receivers sometimes look like they're just not on the same page. Offensively, they go through spells, but again, I think we're kind of in, we know who they're going to kind of be at this point. Philadelphia Eagles, 38-20 revenge win over the Giants. They just lost to the Giants a couple of weeks ago. The big story from this is the next Rob Gronkowski, or the next Gronk, which if you're telling me that Cam Scatterbro is not the next Gronk, you're crazy. He's just a guy that likes to run into people, yell really loudly, probably party, and just run headfirst into people. His ankle took a nasty turn, and I mean that literally. He's probably done for the year. And now the Giants, Jackson Dart's got to stay healthy. Jackson Dart has got to develop. And I think Dable has saved his job with that essence. And then they go into next year with a full year of Jackson Dart. And if he doesn't develop from there, then that's fine. You have good pieces in place for the Giants. They're obviously still a mess of an organization. But Jackson Dart has looked like the answer if he can get the development down. 23-3, Bucks win over the Saints. The Saints are going to go with Tyler Shough, S-O-U-G-H, however you pronounce his name. The rookie quarterback in New Orleans. So he'll start week 9. Spencer Rattler showed that he could be a quarterback in this league. If he's anything more than a spot starter, really, at this point in his going through his career, then I think your team's in trouble if he becomes the season long. Not to say that he can't do it, because this was only year 2 for him. But I think enough was enough. I think that you got to see who you got and who you drafted. Kid Tyler, however you pronounce his name, was a kid out of Louisville this year. So we'll see. 8-14, the Indianapolis Colts beat the Tennessee Titans. I mean, this was going to be that type of game as it was anyway. The Colts still look awesome. So we'll see if they can continue to do that, but Titans are going to well on their way to the first overall pick again. You got to get Cam Ward through this season, and hopefully that he doesn't break down in some way that affects next season. Denver, 44-24 over the Dallas Cowboys. They're starting to turn the corner, and all of the things at the beginning of the year that kind of you questioned, they're starting to eliminate those mistakes. Bo Nix is starting to look like he did late last year. Dallas's defense is historically bad, and they're going to go up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down for the rest of the year. That's just what it is. I don't think they make the playoffs at this point. We had Sunday Night Football. Green Bay Packers hosted Aaron Rodgers back for the first time, and they went 35-25 over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jordan Love looked great. Some early season stumbles for them. They've started to kind of look better as well. And then Monday Night Football, no Jaden Daniels for the Washington Commanders, and they lose to Kansas City 28-7. Offense was very stagnant. The defense for the Commanders looked pretty good. Intercepted Patrick Mahomes twice. It seemed like they were going to keep him in the game for a while. And again, they wore down, just kind of like the Browns defense did against the Patriots. They just kind of wore down as things started to happen. Again, another good week. We'll get into week 9 in a later episode. But what we're going to do is, we did audio only for the NBA preview. So what we're going to do is we're going to transition over to that. We'll run that to the very end. Once we sign off from the NBA preview, that will be it. So you'll see just an image for the rest of the episode, but a good knowledge from my friends Dan and Ian on the NBA season, the changes that have come, and all of the different things that you can expect from this year. So I hope you enjoy that, and we'll see you for the next episode. Hello and welcome back into Loftside Banter. And obviously we've kind of hit that time of year where we have the NHL starting up, the NBA starting up. We're in the full swing of the NFL season. World Series is happening, so it's kind of a very busy sports time of year. We're going to dive into the NBA. Loftside Banter has brought back Dan O'Keefe, one of the first guests we had, so welcome back, sir.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
And we brought back Ian Grotenhuis as well, my resident NBA experts, if you will. Ian, how are you today?
I'm good. That's I'm humbled by your high praise for me.
Listen,
always good to be here.
It's the two that I talk to most about the NBA. We talk about different stories and stuff like that through a little text exchange that we have. So I decided to bring them back because we're starting off the NBA season. We've a couple of games in, about 2 games for each team so far. So we've seen a little bit of what we can expect from the teams. Obviously still very early on, but the NBA as a whole is kind of in a weird spot. And I think you two would agree that opening night to have breaking news that a current sitting NBA head coach, has been arrested. A player has been arrested. And there's ties to the mafia in all of this, which is something that I didn't think in 2025 was on my bingo board. But the mafia is still going strong, apparently, and involved with the NBA. So we had a couple of scandals. We'll start with the opening night gambling scandal. And for those of you who don't know, Blazers head coach Chauncey Billups, former Celtic, and current player Terry Rozier, former Celtic, were both arrested after the opening night of the NBA, or night 2, whatever it was. And to me, this is an interesting time frame for this. Obviously, the FBI probably wasn't going to release something unless they knew what was going on, but right at the beginning of the season was interesting timing. Where do we think the NBA, what kind of light does this shine on the NBA right now?
I mean, I think this is like the insider trading, right, of the NBA. Those cases, true insider trading cases, those people that commit those never have any sympathy from anybody, right? It's just people that enrich themselves, and I think you're going to have the same sort of reaction here. These players have made millions of dollars in salary and endorsements. I have no sympathy at all, right? So it's going to be, obviously everyone's still innocent until they're proven guilty, but it's a really tough look, almost on opening night, to have this kind of hit the wire. If you're an NBA fan, you kind of knew that this would happen eventually with, the deregulation of sports betting. I don't think we anticipated it would reach this extent. So it's just interesting how this has unfolded. Like you had never would have thought this would have mafia ties and like these freaking James Bond X-ray tables and all this wild stuff. It's like almost out of a movie. It's hard to believe that, this is like, the very conservative and staid NBA that we grew up with under David Stern, and now we have these things to worry about. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, for those who don't know, I mean, there's been 34 arrests, 3 big names, and there's really 2 separate situations going on here. Terry Rozier has been accused of actually affecting the outcomes of games, right? Where Chauncey Billups had an active head coach, been guilty of actively trying to affect the outcome of games. I think that would be way worse for the NBA. For those who don't know, Chauncey Billups was involved in a separate, I guess you would call it gambling ring with the mafia and rigging poker games, things like that. Yeah. I think it would have been a much worse look if he was, kind of doing what Terry Rozier was accused of doing. I don't know if you guys have put on your tinfoil hats yet and seen the photo of Chauncey putting on his Clutch Sports Group hoodie upon being released. I mean, that's interesting. It alludes to the fact that the tip of the iceberg may, it might not, more names might become unsurfaced, I guess. But
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, people are saying, like, why are these athletes risking millions to win thousands? I don't think it has to do with money. And I don't, some people are talking like gambling addiction. I think really both you guys could probably name a handful of people when we grew up, no matter where you come from, who you are, you could have all the resources in the world, perfect family, teachers who care. Some people just have a proclivity for trouble. They just need to do something that involves high risk. And I think that's what this is. But by all means, I mean, it's not the NBA had such an amazing opening night action wise. So it's unfortunate that it's been completely overshadowed by all this craziness.
Yeah, that was my question, was like, is it just people that want trouble, or is it like does the fame and the fortune kind of make them think they're untouchable? Do they have this altered sense of reality that they're just kind of above everybody else? I can't really quite figure it out. But, I kind of like your theory.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead. It's to your point, yes. Chauncey Billups was kind of involved with that poker side of it, so there's kind of, like you said, two different sides of it. Terry Rozier, what they're looking at with him is there was a game where there was, I think, $13,000 or whatever from a professional gambler thrown into a Terry Rozier under, and he played 10 minutes that night and then came out with a foot injury. And it was just, now people are kind of looking at that as like, well, is that the game that he threw? Is that the weird stuff with this? And to the NBA's point, they've kind of talked about it a little bit, where they've asked sportsbooks to roll back different things. So, like, anybody that's on a 2-week contract, you shouldn't be able to get any sort of line on, points or whatever like that, because chances are they're not going to play this or that. So they've asked for that to be taken out. And a lot of sportsbooks have said yes to that, because obviously they don't want to lose the NBA. It's just an interesting dynamic to you guys' point, where is this just a competitive thing? Is this something that you need to have the high risk, like you're saying? Or is this just, hey, we're going to make extra money, this is a guarantee, this is that, and now you're down the wrong road with the wrong people? So Terry Rozier,
it could be a mix of all of it.
Yeah.
I do think, and look, you always hear about, these card games that happen in the NBA, whether it's, Jordan, who was a notorious gambler, Iverson was a notorious gambler, and then you have, even something more petty like the Gilbert Arenas, Javaris Crittenton gun incident that stemmed from, a card game or something. So I think there's just kind of a natural, gambling's just kind of part of the NBA, for better or for worse. It's just part of the culture. And I think some people, just are seeking that out, and sometimes it just kind of falls into their lap, and they just, are probably in too deep before they know what hit them. But part of it's just the culture of the game, unfortunately.
You guys think we're going to see more dominoes and more powerful people fall? I mean, is this going to extend outside of the NBA? Is it just an NBA problem?
I think. Well, one of the things, Gilbert Arenas was just arrested on August 1st for a gambling ring out of some mansions in California.
I heard that.
I think this has something to do with that. And I'm not saying he snitched on people or said stuff or whatever the case may be. It just, the timing seems a little weird that he was arrested, a couple of months ago, and now we have all these dominoes falling, or at least the first few, for this gambling ring. And I think there's got to be more. I mean, Damon Jones is the other name. He was assistant coach for the Cavaliers. Apparently, he fed information when LeBron was not going to play one night to friends via text, and his texts were something like, make sure you win Coach Jones his share too, or something like that. So it's very incriminating. All these text messages from him and everything else. So there's a player supposedly throwing something, a coach supposedly giving out information, and then, again, Chauncey Billups is apparently Tony Soprano. That's where we're at. So I think there's definitely more. I know Kevin Garnett's name has come up with being involved in these poker games. He's since obviously retired, so I mean, there's not a whole lot connecting him to the NBA or the game aspect of it right now.
Paul Pierce has to be involved too. Paul Pierce has to be in deeper than any other player. Period. And I love Paul Pierce, but let's be real.
Yeah, I just think we're gonna get a bunch of them. We're gonna get a bunch of names, and it's gonna be one of those things that you're gonna be surprised or not surprised as this goes along. But there's a lot more deeper. Now, the other thing that I heard at least earlier today was the NBA tried to make this go away. In the case of Terry Rozier, after he came out with this foot injury, I don't think he played again the rest of the year. And it seems as if the NBA basically told him, you sit out the rest of the year. Whatever this foot injury is or whatever you're saying it is, you're done for the year, sit out. We won't make an announcement. We won't say you're suspended. We won't whatever. But there's news or at least rumors going around that they basically told him you're done playing for the year. And he obviously didn't play the first game. They knew it was coming. I mean, I don't think it was a surprise to them. So, I don't know. We're just kind of at that. And there's been really far out, like, rumors, like, people have been saying, like, oh, sports gambling is going to end sports for all of us, which I think that's a little, we've gone a little far here. But there will be a massive punishment to make sure that it should not continue. And we'll get into the Kawhi thing next as well, but there's going to be a huge punishment for something like that as well. They've got to stop it now, or else this is going to be a problem. Like even who was the ref that got caught?
Tim Donaghy.
I mean, even that.
Well, keep in mind when Tim Donaghy went down. I mean, he claimed that he could have dropped dimes on 100 other people doing this, including a ton of other refs, and chose not to do it. Whether or not that's him just trying to cover for himself or not. So it probably does go very, very deep, and that's why I think in some ways sports. People are saying everything's rigged. My counter would be if the NBA was rigged, the Pacers wouldn't have been in the finals last year, or the Thunder for that matter. But it's not a good look, that's for sure, and it's going to be interesting to see what else unfolds.
Yeah. The I don't think it's rigged. I think even when I thought the NBA was going to lose out on a whole bunch of sponsors and everything else when Donaghy had his issue, but it seemed to have overcome it and thrived. So I think it's only a matter of time before, once we get the full story and how deep we're talking, the NBA is not going to go anywhere. I mean, it's not going to disappear. It's not going to cease to exist because there's a gambling scandal.
I don't mean to veer us too far off topic, but another topic to consider would be the potential of an NBA team, an expansion team in Vegas. How all of this could affect that. I know that's been in talks for a while. I think LeBron was trying to help get that off the ground in some regard, but just interesting.
Yeah. The other controversy, as I mentioned earlier, was the Kawhi Leonard and the Los Angeles Clippers basically operating as the mafia as well and giving. So the story was that Kawhi was signed with the Clippers or traded to the Clippers or whatever it was, and they started paying him basically under the table for this group called Aspirations, where they put him as part of this organization and basically told him, you don't need to go to these things. We're just going to pay you. And they're basically saying that they're circumventing the cap. And before we get too far into it, the first thing I want to ask is, there's no way this is the first time this has happened for any NBA organization. I'm sure somewhere owners have paid players to come to markets that maybe they didn't want to go. Not that LA is not a desirable market, but this is not new in professional sports.
Not at all. And remember, this wouldn't even be a story if Aspiration hadn't filed for bankruptcy and that contract been found during discovery, right?
Right.
We wouldn't be having this conversation. So there are absolutely other instances in the past and maybe even ongoing that have similar, maybe even similar no-show type deals with contracts that are very not what a rational person would sign for a business, right? So I think there's more going on. This is just the one that got found out.
Yeah. I don't have evidence to it. I'm speaking as a generalization because I mean, this is professional sports. These owners have more money than, especially Steve Ballmer. Steve Ballmer has more money than any human being should ever even be able to look at, let alone anything else. So some of the penalties that I have here are fine the Clippers up to $7.5 million. That's is the highest they can fine a team according to the CBA. Fine Leonard up to $350,000. Forfeit Clippers draft picks. Suspend Ballmer or other Clippers personnel up to a year. Fine Ballmer or other Clippers personnel up to $1 million each, which again is nothing to Steve Ballmer. Void Leonard's contract and prohibit him from re-signing, which I believe Joe Smith, that happened with Joe Smith in the Timberwolves, if I'm not mistaken.
It did, yeah. I believe they did void his contract.
Yeah. And then require Leonard to return the money he received from Aspiration. So there's a whole bunch of different things that's on the table. Again, the investigation is ongoing for that, but the Clippers seem to have this inability to be successful in pretty much anything that they've ever done. And I mean, I can remember as far back as going when they got Darius Miles and Quentin Richardson, we were like, all right, here we go. They're up and up, and they didn't work out. And then, you know, you get through the Blake years and the Chris Paul years, and you're like, all right, they're fourth place. They got a legitimate shot to come. No, they couldn't get, they kept DeAndre Jordan, locked him in his own house to make sure he re-signed and stuff like that. And we're at a point where they still have a good roster, but now you have this other thing that is now hanging over them for this season. And are the Clippers ever going to get over the hump of being the other LA franchise?
It's unfortunate. They're in the West. They've got all these trailing off-court issues that continually pop up, be it Donald Sterling or, like you were mentioning before, now the thing with Kawhi. Steve Ballmer, he's got unlimited resources, but this was a bad look for them. Listen, they're in the West. If they were in the East, they'd be running one of the longest dynasties we've ever seen. But it's just unfortunate. Every time they collect some firepower, off-court things kind of derail them. And again, they're in the West. It's going to be curious to see how they do this year. I have them as a third seed at the end of the season. But we'll see. They've been cursed for sure.
Yeah. So I have some thoughts just before we, kind of go on the whole Clippers curse wagon here. Just going back to the scandal at the topic we're discussing. So I would find it almost impossible that Steve Ballmer would be dumb enough to have any kind of evidence that would link him to this scandal. He is too successful, too smart, too savvy of a man to have any kind of paper trail that would lead him to this, fraudulent, if you want to call it, contract that Kawhi had with Aspiration. So there is that. I don't think we're going to find any kind of smoking gun, with Ballmer's name on it. I think he's too smart. But I do think there's major impropriety here. There's just too many facts that line up in such a way that it can't be a coincidence. Just anecdotally, right, September of 2021, the Clippers announce a $300 million partnership with Aspiration. 2 months later, in November, the Clippers extend Kawhi for 4-year, $173.
Mm-hmm.
That timing is kind of suspect.
Right.
The no-show contract is, I think, the biggest red flag, especially for an upstart company that was, bleeding cash as Aspiration was. It is a completely irrational decision, and almost like a complete dereliction of duty by the CEO, Joe Sandberg, to put in place this contract that has no responsibility for Kawhi, no, requirements for him to, help get his face on the company to, market for them, any kind of, sales type of, help for that company. It was nothing, and I mean, so that's one thing. I can't believe that we have proof that there was a no-show contract, right? The other thing that is just kind of interesting is that the Wall Street Journal put out an article about the whole Joe Sandberg and Aspiration bankruptcy, and there was a quote in there where an employee of Aspiration recalls Joe Sandberg saying, quote, "This is important to the Clippers," end quote. So he was involved for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I know from reading that article that employees of the company were completely dumbfounded at that contract, both for the amount and for the lack of responsibility of Kawhi having to do anything. I think that the most interesting part, and I really haven't seen much response in the media about this one, is that Aspiration, they made a payment to Kawhi as part of that contract. They paid him $1.7 million just days after Clippers minority owner, I forget his name, made a $2 million investment into Aspiration. This
I
is
didn't know that. Wow.
This is December of 2022. So days after this Clippers minority owner puts $2 million into Aspiration, 1.7 goes out to Kawhi.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So
Very sloppy.
those are just some of the things I wanted to highlight about this scandal. I don't think we're ever going to see Steve Ballmer's name on anything, so it's tough to tell what kind of punishment will ultimately be doled out.
Yeah, it's going to be why I don't think we're ever going to get a definitive answer before the end of the year. I'd be surprised if we got it before the end of the NBA season this year. It's going to be ongoing for a while. Yes, we have the contracts and stuff like that. I agree with you. I think Ballmer he'll get by with not having any real, it just involved, we just had a partnership. That was it. I didn't know, I signed off on the deal to whatever, but I don't think he'll get connected to it in any way, shape, or form.
Nothing will affect Kawhi either. Just more unnecessary headlines for the Clippers. But
yeah, I mean, if he's forced to leave the Clippers, I mean, somebody will sign him. It's not like he's going to go unsigned. It's not like it's, again, I think this is definitely something that has gone on in sports, no matter what sport we're talking about. There was there's got to be payments that have been made to circumvent caps in every which way, I'm sure. So I don't think it's going to, other than the Clippers losing Kawhi, if it did happen this season, that's the really difference that we're kind of looking at. But yeah, it's the NBA has not had a great offseason or beginning, at least as a whole entity, as far as news. Now, to Dan's point, opening night was great. I watched the Thunder game, opening night, where they got their rings, and they just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger as far as these championship rings are concerned. They look like they've picked up right where they left off. I don't foresee that being any real different than it is. But they played 2 double overtime games, the last 2 games. So both of them have been double overtime. SGA looks great. And then the other thing that shocked me opening night is the Houston Rockets having the tallest average starting lineup in the history of the NBA at 6'11", which shows you that the NBA has gone positionless. If you're a big man that can handle the ball and can shoot, you'll play in the starting 5 with the others. It's not as if you're limited to, I got to have one big guy. Now this is what the NBA is at this point. So outside where we had just a few games, do we have any sort of predictions of who's on the rise, who's kind of on the free fall, who's coming out of the East, West, anything like that? Let me know what you're kind of thinking, because as of right now, Spurs, I believe I was the one that questioned Wemby in one of the previous episodes we had, and he looked great for his first 2 games. They're in first.
He was better than great. Better than great.
Yeah. I mean, like the things he can do at 7'5" is just illegal. I mean, it wasn't just that cool windmill reverse thing he did on the baseline, that dunk, like whatever. When he had that crossover behind the back into a step back and hit that 3, it was an and one. Like, I almost passed out. Like,
yep.
Like
that was that's
players,
as pivotal. That's as pivotal a highlight as Iverson hitting Jordan. It really was.
100%. Like just the level of skill required to do that. Like, regardless of height. I mean, even for a guard, like pulling that off is impressive. And when you're 7'5" and can do that, you are literally like a video game cheat code. Like, there's nothing that can stop this guy. Nothing. Yeah. I mean, he might even win MVP. I mean, I kind of defaulted to the Jokic or SGA, right? Might be one of them, yeah. But man, with voter fatigue and with how awesome Wemby has looked, I mean, it's a real possibility.
Yeah, they're winning by an average of 18.5 points in the first 2 games. Again, just as kind of that caveat of that statistic, but that's where they are right now. Let's go to the Eastern Conference, and let's do the Eastern Conference. We're all Celtics fans here, and obviously the first 2 games haven't looked great, which we kind of knew they would be a down year. Now, I thought they could sneak in kind of that 6-7 range, and then you make your decision towards the end of the year around the playoffs, because apparently Jason Tatum is well ahead of his rehab. He's looked pretty good in practices and the workouts he's been doing. Opening night, you lose by 1 to the 76ers, which, again, a 1-point loss to the 76ers with VJ Edgecombe playing as well as he did, Tyrese Maxey dropping 40. The thing, you were winning by quite, you were up 11 points or so in the third quarter, and then you let up 42 points in the fourth quarter. So that defense we knew was going to struggle this year. So they've started 0-2. They lost by 10 to the Knicks last night. The Nets, the Pacers, the Hawks, and the Wizards are kind of all in that kind of bottom category. Then the Celtics don't belong with those other teams. That's the thing that doesn't mix with the talent that they have. Do you foresee the Celtics making the playoffs for one? And where do they have to improve the most, at least from what you've seen, at least over the first couple of games?
I mean, I have the Celtics probably finishing at a 5 seed, maybe a 4 seed, just because the East is the East. I think the biggest adjustment, at least in the first 2 games, is seeing Jaylen Brown adjust to other teams' defenses now that he's the number 1 option. I don't see a heck of a lot of there's no good ball movement like there was last year. Again, Jaylen Brown trying to adjust. Derek White's playing well, but again, it's just going to be such an adjustment for them. I have them finishing, like I said, 4 seed maybe, probably the 5th seed. Cleveland and New York, I have coming number 1 and number 2. New York's deeper than most people think. They can play big, play small. Cleveland, I think, they're going to miss Ty Jerome more than people are letting on. But again, they struggle with injuries every single year. Garland being hurt. So I think the Celtics are going to magically still wind up in the middle of the bracket and enter the playoffs. And hopefully, Tatum, I saw a video of him last week and he's still limping, So people that think he's coming back at the end of the year, I think are mistaken. I think if anything, he'll be coming back in later rounds in the playoffs if we can get there. But it's going to be an adjustment. We all knew that, but I'm definitely still thinking playoffs.
Yeah, I'm thinking playoffs. I wouldn't go as high as 5. And definitely not 4. I mean, look, some players some players rise up to that next level and you can run an entire offense through them. And I just don't think Jaylen Brown is that guy. I mean, a couple episodes ago we did this, and I half jokingly threw out the idea of, would you trade Jaylen Brown for Trey Murphy straight up? There's a reason why I posed that question. I mean, I love Jaylen. Last night, 7 turnovers on 3 assists against the Knicks. The Knicks are not exactly known as a great defense, even under Tibbs. Now, yes, they have Mikal Bridges, they have OG Anunoby, 2 great perimeter defenders. But as a team, at least last year, they weren't that great. So Jaylen Brown coughing up 7 turnovers against the Knicks is kind of alarming. So I just don't think he has that ball handling ability and court sense to do what Tatum does. I think he's always going to be better off as a secondary player. And I think this will be, a rough realization for Celtics fans that don't already know that. That's just my opinion on Jaylen. I think the biggest thing I've seen over the first 2 games, no one can rebound on this team. Nobody can rebound. I mean, we take it for granted that, Tatum averages like over 8 rebounds a game for us, right? Almost all of them on the defensive end. We gave up so many offensive rebounds and second chance points because of that. We just don't have the personnel to be great rebounders. Kata is good, but he gets winded pretty easily. I think he tries to chase blocks too much instead of being in position. Tillman is, a thick dude, but he's pretty undersized height-wise. Boucher is, thin as a rail. But we just don't have rebounders. I think it's going to be an issue all season.
Yeah, I'm looking at the numbers and stuff like that. The one thing that I've looked at is Peyton Pritchard has not looked like a starting guard in this league the first 2 games of this year. 12 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. He was putting up those types of numbers coming off the bench. So now you're playing 36 minutes. He's shooting 14% from 3 right now. It's just, that's where I think a lot of it has kind of lacked as far as their scoring punch too. Derek White's at 20 points a game. Jaylen Brown, I think, is 24 points a game first couple of games. Kata's look good. Again, with you, I don't think he's a upper echelon big guy in the NBA by any means. He's going to get extra minutes. You're going to kind of see what he can do. And again, we knew this was going to kind of be a down year. I think most fans, and I include myself in all of this, talk yourself into it with guys like Pritchard. Oh, he's going to get more minutes. He's going to light up the league. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. Sam Hauser. Oh, he's going to get more opportunities to shoot. He's going to, be this guy. Chris Boucher. Oh, they love him. Oh, he's going to be great. He's going to help them on the boards. No, we're still in that. Hey, we're going to be a down team this year. And you kind of have to accept it. Now, they're going to have games where they go out and they dominate a team. I'm going to be like, see, I was right. See, my hunch was right. They just need to get used to it. And then they'll go through games like the first 2 and be like, oh, shit, this is where we're at. So that's what any fan will do. I still think they sneak into the playoffs. It may be a playoff spot. And I think that's okay because I think you can beat the other teams that are in that kind of area as well. Do you think that Tatum, if they make the playoffs in any way, shape, or form, whether it's the playoff or not, do you think that they possibly risk him in a playoff run?
No.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just like bringing someone back and expecting them to just get integrated, without any hitch after you've been sitting for 82 games or whatever, 70 games, and you come in for like the last week or 2, that is a tall task. It's so much easier said than done. Without Tatum, the whole offense is different. All the schemes are different. You can't just throw him in there like plug and play and pretend like it's the 2024 playoffs. It would just be a disaster.
Very early too, though. Very, very early. God forbid other players from other teams could get hurt. Wherever they enter, the playoffs. I mean, anything could happen. We're literally 1 week in here, but I agree. I mean, it's just I would save him for next year.
Yeah, to me, it's very, like you said, very early on. If you think you can make that push, I think it's a conversation. But to Ian's point, just saying, "Hey, go in there and do what you normally do," it's not that simple. So we as fans have to understand that it's a lot. It's probably a lost season. They've made moves to get under the second apron and everything else like that. We knew what that was going into the offseason. And now we just got to see if they can develop as a team together without Tatum in the lineup. Again, is Brown going to be any better knowing like halfway through the year than he is these first two games? Probably. But how much better can he be, especially with these defenses now keying in on him? Eastern Conference wise, obviously it's wide open. Halliburton is going to still be out. We were talking about Dame Lillard, but obviously he's no longer with the Bucks. The Knicks and the Bucks are both 2-0. They've looked pretty good. The Bulls got a big win on their opening night against the Pistons, who was one of the teams that I thought was going to be probably topper echelon of the Eastern Conference. I thought the Magic would be up there, the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think out of the East, I look at the Knicks, I look at the Cavaliers, and I'm still going to say the Pistons. 76ers with VJ Edgecombe looked really good, but Embiid, his 20 minutes on opening night against the Celtics were painful to watch.
I think that is the new reality, by the way. Like, I do not think that's a fluke. I think that is just who he is now. I think his body has deteriorated so bad that he is a role player now. I don't think he will. This is my bold prediction of the season. I don't think Embiid will ever average 20 points a game ever again.
Really? Yeah, I think, what was it, 4 points, two rebounds in 20 minutes, shot like 11%, whatever it was. Yeah.
Looking slow. He was looking like he was in pain.
Yeah.
Most of the game.
I would say probably they go through the season with load management with him. And yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe he's just never going to be 20 points a game again. And I think this is probably the new reality, like you're saying. He's 31 years old. He's not exactly had the healthiest record going into his 30s. And again, I realize I'm saying he's 31, and that's old. But like, he had, how many seasons did he sit out before he even got to the NBA? Wasn't it like 2 full seasons? Yeah,
2 full seasons.
2 seasons, yeah.
And then,
I mean, talk about a cursed franchise. They have young firepower. So, to Ian's point, if that is the case, if he's just never the same Joel Embiid again, who knows where they'll go from here.
Right.
Yeah, I have Knicks, Cavs, Magic, Pistons, and Bucks. That's my top 5 in the East. You probably heard me complain about this before. I think Darius Garland is overrated. I don't think the Cavs need him. I think, small guards that are defensive liabilities, I think, are becoming more and more known as, just hard to build around. And they're only situational type players. So I'm definitely short on Garland. The Hawks, I mean, I don't know. They're one of those like great on paper teams, but I just can't trust myself, or I can't trust the Hawks to be healthy and to coalesce into a legitimate like top 5 team. I mean, Porzingis is going to miss half the season with whatever. I think Trae Young is having diminishing value year after year as the NBA figures out how to guard him, and they figures out that he's really not that great of a shooter. That he's really just a great ball handler and passer, and that's about it. Will always be a defensive liability. Jalen Johnson's missed a bunch of time. I'm not sold on any kind of improvement in Dyson Daniels' jumper. So I'm very skeptical of the Hawks. I mean, they could surprise me, but I don't have them in my top 5 for those reasons.
I'm looking at the Hawks right now. So they play the Thunder tonight, which is already a game that you probably weren't going to win. Porzingis is out, Jalen Johnson's out, and Zachary Reisher,
Risa Shea.
Jeez, way off. Risha Shea is out. So that's three stars.
No surprise.
I'd be willing to bet everything I own that Ian's fantasy team does not have a guard 6'2" or under. All his criticisms have been guards. Garland, Pritchard, Young, doesn't like him. Get him out.
No, the smallest one I have on my fantasy team is Anthony Simons.
There you go.
Fair.
Everybody else is like that. Those like jumbo like
defensive liability. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I love bigger guards, even if they're not great at shooting. I love like bigger playmaking guards that can do a lot of stuff, and they're good on defense. Guys like Stephon Castle, love that guy. I'm all in on Stephon Castle.
Yeah, Spurs.
Yeah, like part of the game's evolution. Yeah, these wing type players, positionless ball.
Yeah, the Spurs look like if they can keep everybody healthy all year, with DeAndre Fox and Castle, Vassell, even Harrison Barnes still putting up decent numbers at 33. I think they look really good, but the Western Conference is obviously a lot harder to kind of predict. Thunder again looked great first two games, had to go to double overtime both games. The Rockets are 0-2, even with the lineup they were able to put together. The Dallas Mavericks with 3 number 1 overall picks on their roster. Now, granted, only two of them are playing at the moment, are 0-2. And then you have teams like the Warriors. They're still right there. The Lakers, I mean, Luka just dropped 49 last night. The Clippers, I mean, what are the Clippers going to do? The Timberwolves, they're all kind of in this jumbled up conversation where your 1 through 6 could go in pretty much any order. It just depends on who's beating who's healthy, and all that different stuff. So what are the teams as far as the Western Conference? Can you make any sense of this jumbled up talent that we have?
Here's my top 5 in the West. Thunder, Nuggets, Rockets, Timberwolves, Warriors. I think the Clippers, I mean, man, this is the most geriatric AARP team I've ever seen. It's incredible. I mean, even more than like all those LeBron teams where they just sign a bunch of veterans to try and win a championship. This team is older than all of them. Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, yeah, that the names are big, and on certain nights they'll play great, but man, over an 82 game season, forget about it. So yeah, they're not in my top 5. The Warriors are kind of like that. You know, they're a little too old. I think they'll be smart about how they, stagger lineups and how they, load manage their big 3 that they have. Mm-hmm. But I just think Steve Kerr is a savvy enough coach to figure out how to at least survive the 82 game season with a decent seed in the playoffs. And yeah, I mean, there's other teams that have talent. I can't see them getting in the top 5.
Yeah, my top 5 is Thunder, Rockets, Denver, Minnesota, and San Antonio. Thunder obviously for obvious reasons. The Rockets, I think it's done my soul a lot of good to see Kevin Durant playing in meaningful games again. It looks great, feels great. Amin Thompson, huge fan of his. Denver still has the best player in the world. They do, like it or not. Aaron Gordon just came off one of the most amazing performances I've seen. 50 points on like 80% shooting. Minnesota, they're going to be top 4, top 5. I really think Wemby's going to let Ian mention that he may win MVP this year. I think he's definitely going to be in the top 5 conversation. And then it pains me to put the Warriors out of the top 6, but Steph, I'm a huge Steph fan forever. Him and Buddy Hield are going to be launching crazy shots all year, but I think it's going to be Thunder Rockets coming out of the West.
Yeah.
I mean, you might make me change my mind on the Warriors there at number 5. I might have San Antonio there now that you kind of make your case for it, but I don't know. We'll see. But San Antonio is right behind them for my number 6 for right now, but they might move up.
Yeah, I don't foresee anybody overtaking the Thunder, especially if they can stay healthy. Young core of players that they've all re-signed. They're all going to be there for a while. I said it probably, I think, to you guys last year, that last year may be the worst iteration of their team that wins the championship. And I still stand by that for now. I haven't seen anything that goes against that. The Spurs, again, I think if they can stay healthy, they're up there. The Nuggets will always be around. The Rockets will bounce back and be around. And then with LeBron healthy and the Lakers, I think they're probably right there at 5 or 6. I foresee Luka he looks in great shape. He lost 31 pounds is what they said yesterday. He's dropped 49 against Minnesota. I think the Lakers overall are a better team than the Minnesota Timberwolves when they're fully healthy. And even when they weren't fully healthy with LeBron, they still beat them yesterday. And again, early on, I understand. The one team that I'm shocked that has played as poorly as they have has been the Dallas Mavericks with Cooper Flagg. Now, Ian, to your point in one of the previous episodes, I believe you said he wasn't going to come in and change the game and be this great overall number one guy to start off his career. And he looked okay in the first couple of games. Obviously, there's plenty of time to improve, but do we expect him to be in the Rookie of the Year conversation?
Oh, he'll be in the conversation. I don't think he wins it. Look, this whole point forward Cooper Flagg thing is just a terrible idea. I mean, he is like the youngest player in the league. I mean, remember he reclassified so that he could be even younger. So, I mean, he's still 18 years old, and you're expecting him to run an offense like a point guard in the Western Conference. Like, it's just a terrible idea. And game 1, proved that out. I don't think he had a single assist, and I think he had 4 or 5, maybe even more turnovers. I mean, look, you need to do something while Kyrie Irving's out, but I mean, I think at this point, starting a washed-up defensive liability D'Angelo Russell is still a better, point guard proposition than running your offense through Cooper Flagg. I think he'll be great eventually, and by great I mean he's going to be, more of a Scottie Pippen than a Carmelo Anthony. I don't think he's going to be the guy that drops 50 points. He's just going to be this elite glue guy that can pass, make plays, get to the rim, defend, rebound, all things you want. He's just not this alpha, scorer. This is not his game. So he'll be in the conversation. I just don't think he wins it. I think there's just too much responsibility too soon for him to have an efficient season to actually win it.
Game 1, he played 32 minutes, had 10 rebounds, no assists, as you mentioned, 3 turnovers, 10 points. In their 10-point loss to the Wizards, 35 minutes, 6 assists, 5 turnovers, 18 points. So, again, a little bit better scoring, worse at, better at passing the ball to his teammates, but still worse as far as turnovers is concerned. So, yeah, growing pains, and I agree with you, he's young. I think it's a weird lineup. And the Fire Nico chants have already started this year. So, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of moves they make if they continue to struggle and stuff like that. But, yeah, I don't think he's in the best situation to start his NBA career. Not that he can't grow into it or develop or whatever, but it's very tough, as you were saying, in this Western Conference to run an offense with a team that's already meh as it is. What else we got? So do we have any other bold predictions from this year? Do we have anything else? I have a few.
I have a few.
But go for it.
I think mine's quick. Mine's pretty quick. I think, we all know the West games in the West game have us turn on our TV, to watch. And I think NBA champion 2026 is coming out the West. But I think as far as bold predictions go, I think the East is going to be the conference of individual accomplishments. I think Coach of the Year, I have Orlando at a 3 seed, so I have their coach, Jamal Mosley, winning Coach of the Year 2026. I think Andrew Nemhard probably going to win Most Improved with Halliburton out. I have him, being an all-star. Rookie of the Year, not even just because of opening night there, but I have VJ Edgecombe winning Rookie of the Year. So I think the East is going to be the conference of individual accomplishments, but obviously the West, there's no competition when it comes to who's going to take it all.
All right. Mine, I agree with your take on individual accomplishments coming out of the East. I was on the Trey Johnson Rookie of the Year train, and watching VJ Edgecombe, it wasn't just the points, just the way he moved, the way he carried himself. He looked like he was a 4 or 5 year vet in the NBA. And his athleticism and bounce is just unfair relative to the rest of the league. So I think I'll, agree with you there that he wins Rookie of the Year. I think the Cavs will trade Darius Garland, going back to my point on the anti-Darius Garland train. I think Benedict Mathurin wins Most Improved Player. I thought this even before he had that 34-point, 10-rebound night against the Thunder. And my other bold prediction, I think Ja Morant revives his image and makes an All-NBA team.
Bold one.
Yeah,
I hope it happens.
Yeah, me too. He needs it.
So mine, some of them are probably not that bold, but I have two bold predictions, I guess bolder predictions of coming out of the East. I think it's either the Magic or the Pistons. Those are the two teams that I think come out of the East this year. I just think it's wide open. And again, I think the Magic are probably in that 3-4 range, and I think the Pistons are probably close to that as well, probably switching places or whatever the case may be. I don't foresee the Knicks being able to get there. And then the Cavaliers, they don't scare me as much as some of the other teams. I'm not a huge fan of Darius Garland, like you guys have both said as well. I just don't foresee them being the last one standing out of the East. I think if anything shown last year, not last year they had some injuries and stuff like that in the playoffs, but I think they have injury-prone players. I think DeAndre Hunter is an injury-prone player. I just don't. They don't scare me that much. So those are the kind of the bold predictions for the East. I mean, you can put the Celtics as making the playoffs right now as a bold prediction, I guess. But as far as the Western Conference, I think the Thunder's defense is going to be even better than it was last year. They were so great last year defensively. I just think they're going to be better. And I guess the sneaky team kind of out of the West. Here's this. I think Nikola Jokic is going to win his 4th MVP. That's not really a bold prediction, but comparative to where everybody else is, or SGA or anything else like that, I think he wins that. And then I think Anthony Edwards wins the scoring title this year. That's kind of where I'm going with, again, I don't think I'm necessarily going so far on a limb that I'm not safe with some of those picks, but that's kind of where I'm at with all this different stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. One thing that was alarming, and I get it, it was only the second game of the season, but it's significant given how much money this guy makes. Rudy Gobert last night, in 28 minutes, 2 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 0 blocks, 3 fouls. Is he just a complete non-factor now? The shelf life of big guys that depend on athleticism is not good. You look at, how inefficient DeAndre Jordan became once he hit, 30. He kind of got shuffled to team after team after team. And this is the same thing. I just don't think he has the physical tools anymore to be a dominant defensive presence. I think it's going to be alarming, but I know this is like the second game of the season, but it's been a slower trend the last couple of years. His numbers are they keep going down. So something I'm keeping an eye on this year. Given I'm still a big Minnesota fan, I don't see that center position doing very well.
Yeah, I value Naz Reid more than I do Rudy Gobert at this point in his career.
100%.
You know, we're talking about a guy that's his mid-20s that at times last year could score fairly well for a guy that wasn't necessarily known as a scorer. I think he's still pretty good defensively. I don't think he's Rudy Gobert in his prime defensively, but I still think he brings you more value now than Rudy Gobert. And again, it's probably they're starting him because of how much Rudy Gobert makes. But didn't Naz Reid just sign a new contract too?
Yeah, he did. I forget what it was, but it was a good amount. But I think he's
21 million, 21.5 million.
Yeah.
So, so is there any player that you? This one's kind of going to be thrown as a curveball. I didn't put it on the list, but is there a player in the league that you value very highly that maybe hasn't been as good in their first few years or whatever the case may be that you still have hope for? Dan and I have always talked about Kedrick Brown. We still believe in Kedrick Brown at this point in time.
Oh, man.
So is there somebody
you
out
get him
there?
in the G League, he's got another chance. Oh, man. Other than Kedrick?
Other than Kedrick Brown, yeah.
I'm trying to think.
Somebody who's in the league currently. Let's start with that.
Sure. Man, I think Jalen Green, as young as he is, I think he's kind of got a bad rep just for not having progressed like people thought he would. Also, super duper young, and I don't think Smith's there. I think he's got a higher ceiling than people think he does. Obviously, he had a great preseason. He had that banger three in overtime, but I think he could be an all-star. I'm still going through my Rolodex here of some older players. Ian, you got anything?
Well, kind of. I have not given up. Well, I say I've given up, but I really haven't in the depths of my heart. I have not given up on Zion Williamson, but I have given up on him actually being in a functional franchise that can put the proper personnel around him. So I've given up on that, but I do think he's going to be still a dominant player. I think his skill set is too good to only rely on athleticism. I think even as that starts to dwindle, I think he's got great defensive instincts, playmaking instincts. He'll still be a good player. And he's still, right now, for at least in his athletic prime, I think he'll be a hell of a player, but just terrible situation.
So the guy that I really liked and I thought he would be a lot better, and he's way down on this depth chart, unfortunately, but he was a lottery pick. I thought he was going to be really good coming out of Michigan. He plays for the Magic, Jet Howard. I thought Jet Howard would be so much better than what he's been in his career. He is a career 3.8 points per game player. He got barely any time his rookie year. Played in 60 games last year, 4.5 points a game. I thought he would be at least a first guy off the bench type of player or spot starting by this point, and I don't know why. He's shown me nothing to think that he would be any better than what he's currently showing. But I really like Jet Howard coming out of college. And then the other guy that I you can't say you've given up on him because he's played in 2 games, but I really think Walter Clayton Jr. is going to be something special. At least in Utah.
So do I.
Granted, he's played in 2 games, so I mean, it's not like I've given up on him or still believe in him. but he's just a name I want to throw out there that I just think it may not be this year, but
Yeah, he has a lot of Jalen Brunson in him.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he does. That's a great comparison. Yep.
Yeah, same.
Also,
same
guys,
size,
I think you would both agree. Grady Dick is on the rise.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Dick is on the rise.
Yeah.
Dick is rising.
Let's
haven't given up hope. You cut that
out. I have one more. But again, it's a bad team situation. But I don't know why Nick Claxton is not like spoken of like Derek Lively, right? They're the same type of player. He's super bouncy. He's tall. He can block shots. He's a great lob threat. Helps your vertical spacing. And I don't know, just he signed that. I think it was a 4-year, $100 million deal, and no one talks about him. But again, he's on the Nets, so that's probably why. But yeah, I don't know why he's not more revered as one of those elite, rim running, lob catching centers.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, he's just on a bad team.
I don't know if you guys would consider this guy an underachiever. He is, considering when he came into the league, I thought he was going to be a star, and he might be flirting on that level, but again, he's on a team that no one's talking about. But Malik Monk in Sacramento, I don't know what he's averaging. I have no idea what his numbers are. But I still believe, he's just so freaking athletic. He can play D. He's young. I don't know what his stats are, but I thought he would be a bigger name than he is.
Looks like he's like first one off the bench for the Kings, but he's at 19 and a half points a game in the first 2 games this year. So
he was mostly a starter last year.
Yeah.
Especially with, post De'Aaron Fox trade, he started a lot and he averaged about 17 points a game, 5.5 assists. I'm with you, Dan. I've always liked Malik Monk. I always, I just have a real penchant for, guards that can make it rain from 3 and also just, sky for dunks, and he's one of them. Just freakishly athletic. I think he's a good player. And he's shown he can run the pick and roll, can run the offense. I thought he did get a decent contract, good for him. But yeah, I'm with you. I thought he was going to be, kind of like how we view, I don't know, pick your favorite lead guard. That's, maybe like an Anthony Edwards light. I thought he was going to be kind of like that, and it's not the case.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, outside of that, I think the NBA season, I'm glad it's back. Like I said, this is one of those exciting times in sports where everything's kind of, you got a couple of sports ramping up. You're right in the middle of the NFL season, and then you're winding down in the major leagues with the World Series. So, obviously there's still a ton of time for all of this, for anything to happen this season is what I mean. And I think you're going to see the Western Conference be jumbled up all year round. You're going to separate probably 1 through 6 by like a couple of games here or there. The Eastern Conference is going to be interesting. It's just how things are going to pan out. I had something else too. Hold on. Oops. What do you think of? I don't know if you guys caught the comments of Jaylen Brown about this whole scandal that the NBA, he wants the NBA to protect people more, or protect more people over these betting issues. Does that sound to you like the sweeping under the rug we had kind of talked about earlier? That's the one thing I wanted to ask if you guys had heard that.
Protect who?
The players.
The players. He wants the NBA to protect the players more over these betting scandals, and I'm assuming, because what he says, it creates a negative discourse around the game and players when people have money involved. It's leading to situations where we can avoid if more conversations we had, right? If It's leading to situations that we can avoid if more conversations were had right now. So I think he's calling out the NBA for not basically teaching these young players what not to get involved in, yada, yada, yada. And then also for not protecting them when these things come out and names are released and everything else like that. It sounds like he wants things to just kind of go away. Now, he also said that I would never gamble on anything ever, which is what everybody says when asked, hey, would you gamble on basketball? But it seems as if he's
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not in the NBA, and you're not allowed to have these apps on your phone. There's all types of forums and pre-draft conferences going over this stuff. But again, maybe I'm just ignorant to what's lacking that he's claiming. I'm not sure.
I'm with you. I think it's a kind of a hollow plea. I mean, why look to the NBA to protect you? How about you as a player just don't be an idiot? Like this is not hard, If you don't know that what you're doing is stupid, you probably can't be saved, right? You can't have your employer cover up for you if you just don't know stupid. That's your own damn fault.
Right. I don't think it's something you need to call out the employer for. You just need to understand that, hey, yeah, whereas you have an opportunity and you've worked hard to have this opportunity, there are limitations to what you can and cannot do simply because you're in the spotlight. If you are gambling on the sport, people are going to assume that you're affecting the play and everything else like that. I remember years ago they used to put up like the NFL like rookie symposium, and they used to like show clips from it. And there is a point where, hey, there's a number in the back of your rookie book that you get. If you're drunk and you're out, call this number. We'll pick you up any place you are. It doesn't matter where you are, how late it is, whatever. We'll send somebody to pick you up so you don't drive drunk and don't, get caught for it or whatever. And players still did it. So to Dan's point, I'm sure there's stuff there saying, hey, don't be dumb, essentially, is what it boils down to. Don't be an idiot.
If I choose, which I would never do, if I choose to cheat on my spouse, I'm not going to go get mad at Tinder for not protecting me in that situation.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
So I thought those comments were not the best light. Again, we're early on in all of this, and we've obviously talked about the scandal and stuff like that, but I just thought those were very interesting to come out kind of right after the point. Players got to be smarter and understand that you have a limitation. Yeah, you want to be as free as you want. You have all this money. You have all this different stuff. Like Terry Rozier is on the last year of a $96 million contract. To anybody, to the three of us sitting here, at a $96 million contract, all right, I think we're good. We don't need to make more money. But, again, that's kind of where we're at. But I thank you guys for your time. I thank you for looking over the NBA. I'm sure we'll do this again. Actually, I would love to do it again because I enjoy these conversations with you guys. Believe it or not, I don't use you for your fame and fortune and smashing good looks for you gentlemen. So I appreciate it again and look forward to the next time when we look at kind of where the NBA is at that point in time.
Can't wait for it.
All right. Thank you very much, guys, and we will...
Always have a blast. Thanks for having us on, and we'll see you next time. It's on the rise.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
See ya.
Bye.